Hey everyone, it's Joe with the Kind Clinic. I'm super excited today. We have gathered amazing individuals to come together to talk about our favorite topic, Pride Month. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering, what can we do to show our pride? What can we do to celebrate being queer, being proud, being out? And I have some amazing folks to join us today to talk about just that. So, instead of me introducing these folks, I want all of them to tell you who they are, what organizations they represent, and to give you any pronouns that they use. So please join us in welcoming our amazing panelists today and to just talk with them about Pride season and everything coming up.
I guess I'll go ahead and start. My name is Sheldon Darnell. I use he, they pronouns. My organization is Austin Black Pride. And so Austin Black Pride is a nonprofit 501c3. Our goal is to empower, celebrate, and educate the queer and trans community with a specific focus on the Black LGBTQIA community. And we do this through creating multicultural programming, strategic partnerships, relationship building, advocacy work, and eventually policy work. Yeah.
I'll go next, I guess. I'm James Poindexter with Pride San Antonio. We produce the Pride Bigger Than Texas Festival and Parade in San Antonio and the San Antonio Q Fest LGBT International Film Festival and the San Antonio Pride Softball League as well.
I'm Devyn Harris. I'm on the Queerbomb Planning Committee. Queerbomb is Austin's radically inclusive, non-corporate Pride celebration that happens on the first weekend of every June Pride Month.
Hi guys, I am Jordy. I use he, him pronouns. I am with Austin Latinx Pride, and we are a local citywide initiative that is here to empower and encourage Latinx queer people to come out here and also to connect them to the resources that exist and are not available for a community like us. And so we just started, our organization, and we were planning on debut our initiative this summer, but unfortunately because of COVID-19, our plans had changed, and I'm so excited to be part of this.
I'm Emmet. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm with The Gay Agenda. I'm the founder of The Gay Agenda, and we're a queer art collective. We started focusing on comedy, but now we celebrate all kinds of queer art, and yeah, that's why we exist.
Thank y'all so much for giving an introduction of yourselves and of your organizations. And I know the work that y'all do is extremely critical and crucial to a lot of people feeling a sense of community in our various cities and communities that we're a part of. So I wanted to start this conversation off with, can you tell us what your first memory of celebrating Pride, instead of being part of a Pride season or an event or something like that, but tell us the first moment that you were engaged with Pride and felt a sense of pride. And let's start with Sheldon.
Cool. Yeah. So I'll say I came out when I was 18, and it was kind of like a process. Of course, you come out to your close friends first as bisexual, and then, well, I shouldn't do the bisexual, but I came out as bi. Then I came out to my family, and then at that point, I was moving to college, and so I was lucky enough to have not roommates, but neighbors who were also gay. And so I remember the first time I had ever been to a Pride celebration, we had taken a road trip out to Houston for Houston Pride. And we just were in awe by everything that was going on, all the glitz, the glam, all of the family that was out. And so that was probably the first time I felt truly connected to a Pride celebration during Pride Month.
Emmet, what about your experience?
So I took a longer time to come out. I started coming out when I was 21 and was still really uncomfortable with my identity for a long time. And actually went to technically my first Pride celebration last year with Queerbomb, 26 years old. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Just being surrounded by so many different kinds of queer people in a city I've lived in for a long time, almost 8 years, and really feeling comfortable and good and celebratory and safe and happy. Like, there's nothing like that.
Nice. Jordy, tell me about your first experience at a Pride event or something like that.
So I actually came out when I was 18, but my first experience with Pride and the whole Pride celebration was when I was 17, that I actually got to volunteer for Austin Pride Festival. And that's
Oh, nice.
how I got to experience this whole new community to me. And also it was very, I don't know how to describe it, but it was kind of like sneaky just because my family didn't know about me. And my sister, I used to live with her, so I remember she's like, she used to drive me around. So I had to tell her, oh, I have to do an event, and I asked her to drop me off a block away from where the Pride Festival was gonna be at. So she started seeing a lot of people wearing, rainbow flags and glitter, and she's like, "So what is this event gonna be?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just gonna be, indoors right here. You can just drop me off, and I'll be there." She's like, "Okay, just let me know whenever you're done." So then I actually got to, sneak out and went to the festival, volunteer for a little bit, and then that's when I got to experience the whole festival. And I met with one of the Latinx queer artists, and that's how I was inspired to finally come out and just live my truth.
Thank you. Devyn, tell us about your experience.
So I didn't really come out. Once I figured it out, if you knew me, you knew. So it was about in college. It was the semester after we had discovered this place that did drag night every Wednesday. And so we were there regularly. And that summer we went up to DC for Pride. And I got up there and ran into everyone I knew, like people from high school up in New England, people from summer camps I went to when I was a kid. There were just all of these people that were out and proud and just ready to be their full expression of themselves. And it was just an amazing experience for me to be like, oh wait, me too. We can be, okay, cool. I'm just gonna be all of me and y'all are gonna deal with it. And we just danced and laughed. I saw the bishop that baptized me was in the parade. It was the weirdest thing. It was just I felt like I was coming home. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it.
James, tell us about your experience.
So my experience is probably a little bit different. I'm older, I'm 52, but in San Antonio, I've never really had a quote unquote coming out. I've kind of just always, if you knew, like the previous person said, if you knew, you knew, and I didn't hide it or anything like that. But I'd gone to a couple of Pride festivals here in San Antonio, but I've been with my husband now for 30 years. It'll be 30 years next month. But we just never really did get involved. We went to a couple of Pride festivals, didn't really get too much involved. But at one point, we went to a Pride meeting on behalf of Stonewall Democrats because they wanted to be involved in the parade. And we realized how few people actually commit themselves volunteer-wise to produce some of the things that these organizations do. And we were really shocked at how few people are actually trying to pull the things off, and we just couldn't believe how much was actually needed from the community. And that's why we'd never really gotten involved. And they were actually on the verge of canceling the parade that year. And we were like, no, this is the 6th largest city in the nation. There's no way that this can be 7th largest city at the time. It goes back and forth, but there's no way that you can cancel an event like this. How are you even talking about canceling? And they were giving us the list of all the reasons why they needed to cancel it for that year. And we said, over our dead body, what do we need to do to stop this? And so, just one thing led to another, and we got introduced to a couple of different people. And from that point forward, back in 2006, The mission of the organization was to facilitate the needs of individuals so that individuals could facilitate the needs of a community. And we jumped right on that, and we said, we're going to help you revamp this behind this mission, and we're going to press forward. And lo and behold, I've been doing it ever since. And I thought I was just going to be involved for that one season, but I've been the parade director ever since, and my husband is the president of the organization. And over time, we've built quite an entity here that we're very proud of, and still operated by very few people, and we try to get as many people as possible. But in the last 16 years, we've given almost $250,000 back to the community in different organizations and such. So that's my story.
Thank you. I kind of want to touch a little bit more on what James was talking about, the reason they got involved with San Antonio Pride. So for the rest of you all, I know there has to be a story of like, what was the impetus that made you want to get involved in your organizations? And I just wanted to I was wondering, what was the thing that kind of drove you to be like, okay, I'm going to not only show up and support the organization, but then be a part of growing it and making sure that the events happen, you know, doing some of the behind the scenes work that James was talking about?
Well, I'll start. So I started the Gay Agenda last March of 2019, because I struggled to connect with the queer community in Austin, and why I was so afraid to go to a pride for so long. It's not like I was always busy on every pride. I was really intimidated by the different cliques that I think every city is plagued with in their queer community, whether it's cliques or factions or the sense of togetherness for me was lacking. And the party atmosphere was really intimidating to me as well, as someone that likes to chill. So I wanted something a little more multifaceted for queer people, for sober queer people, for all kinds of queer people. And yeah, I mean, similar to James, like I didn't think it was going to snowball into something so significant in terms of what it's become for me. It's most of my world in terms of nourishment and all of that. So really grateful, but I definitely didn't expect to get so enveloped in this queer organization that really started as like a comedy show on the floor of a vintage shop. Like it wasn't supposed to be this, but here I am with some amazing queer activists and community organizers. It's really cool that we can come together. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, I think it I think it does. I think it speaks to one, seeing something that you feel is not present in the community, and then deciding to make that space available to people that feel the same way. And I think Queerbomb does the same thing. Austin Black Pride does the same thing. Austin Latinx Pride does something very similar to the Gay Agenda.
I will add something real quick that what you just talked about, and the cliques and the factions, and that is something that's been going on in queer communities. I know in San Antonio for decades, and it stresses me out big time. And it's something which is why I talk about the mission of San Antonio Pride, which is to facilitate the needs of individuals so that individuals can facilitate the needs of a community. Because that factionalism, which is so common in queer communities, is horrible. And it does take people like us that can recognize that and can create the space that's going to be available to everybody.
And touching on that, the needs of the community, for Devyn, Jordy, and Sheldon, you know, being part of organizations, and I include Queerbomb in that because it is like you explained, like the radical kind of protest movement, I feel. And so creating these spaces or being parts of organizations that create space for people in the community that may be othered as queer and other or queer and something, you know, how do you all continue to progress and work forward and work towards your goals to ensure that this space continues for folks who may be othered within the queer community?
Yeah. So I'll start. And I'm going to say that Austin Latinx Pride, the reason why me and my team partner, we started this. And also I want to thank Sheldon right here, because he was actually the one who connected me to my partner to start ALP. And I couldn't be more thankful for making that connection. So thank you, Sheldon, for that.
Of course.
Yes. And yeah, like I just want to say that we wanted to create this initiative to give a voice to those queer Latinx people that are often not well represented during Pride time. You know, like we see that Austin Pride and, you know, Black Pride are out there. And yes, of course, you know, the Latinx community are supporting those events, but we're often not seen as, you know, like a part of the community, you know. And also a lot of Latinx queer people, we have lack of resources because our community includes people that might be undocumented, and, you know, there's not a lot of resources for undocumented people and for people that are queer. So we wanted to start this so that we're able to connect them to that, and also to make Pride a more accessible place for all kinds of people that, you know, might have disabilities or might speak another language. We want to make sure that we're very accessible, and that we all the content that we share, it's in languages that are for our community or for our audience.
Sheldon, were you going to jump in and say anything?
Yeah, so Austin Black Pride was founded, and you know, just listening to Emmet and how Emmet talks about, you know, not realizing like the impact that your organization would have and how far, you know, things could go and grow. I originally got into the arena of like community organizing through Austin Pride. And so a lot of folks know I started with Austin Pride as a co-chair years ago. And, you know, there were, you know, about 15 people sitting around the table. And, you know, they do great work, but, you know, the LGBTQIA umbrella is very broad. And so, you know, they were trying to get, you know, a diverse group of folks at the table, but, you know, it wasn't working out as well. And that's okay. But they were getting a lot of heat for not having these people at the table, and not, you know, they were also getting heat for not, you know, being able to provide the needs and resources to all of the sub-communities under the LGBTQIA umbrella. And so for me, starting Austin Black Pride was kind of like my responsibility to kind of take some of that weight off of that organization and make sure that, you know, the Black queer community, Black queer and trans community feels represented, and they're getting the access to the specific resources that they need. They're getting access to these different spaces that may not vibe well with the Austin Pride demographic. And so for us coming in, it was part of taking on some of that responsibility. And then two, with Austin, it just has a weird social setup. And like, you know, we talk about the different cliques and things. Marginalized groups are often pushed out, and we can see, you know, Austin's challenged history with like racism, and how, you know, Black folks are essentially being pushed into the outskirts of town due to gentrification. You know, so Austin Black Pride was coming in and kind of taking a stake in Austin and saying, hold up, we're here, we're queer, you know, we have, you know, our own needs, our own way of communicating, we have our own way of creating community. And so we just wanted to take some of the burden on and carve out this space for us and make it uniquely for us. So.
Devyn, did you have anything to add on to it?
I mean, for us, accessibility is like the most, I would say, top 3 most important things for every space that we choose, for all of the people we choose. We want to make sure that it Reaches as much of the community as possible. One of the things that I love about Queerbomb, and the thing that like first caught my attention, was that this is the space for all of the, I mean, for me, it's the space for all of the weird queers that don't fit everywhere else, that don't look like, I don't know, like growing up, I don't know if anyone else watched Queer as Folk, like don't look like that, or don't look like any of the like the traditional, what we've always seen as like the gay population of America. And so we're like, when we have our rally, we make sure that every single community is represented in whatever way we need to, in whatever way we want and feel is important that year. But it's very, very, very important to us that we make sure that everyone sees themselves in our community, because in our mind, we are all part of the same queer community, and we just want to make sure that everyone has that space to feel like they can be their full, authentic self and feel loved.
I want to thank y'all for really being so authentic in your answers and talking about some of the division that we have in our community, but then also stepping up as leaders and filling those gaps to ensure that everyone has some place that they can go to feel seen, feel heard, feel validated, feel honored. And I just think the work that y'all are doing is amazing. So thank y'all for joining me on this conversation where we talked a little bit about the past of why people got involved, why these leaders got involved in their organizations. And tomorrow, we're going to drop more conversation with everyone to talk about COVID and what's happening right now.